Ken Spiro here, speaking to you from the old city of Jerusalem. There's an old Chinese curse that says, may you live in interesting times. And we're definitely living through interesting times, but my perspective, because I'm both a rabbi and a historian and a tour guide on the side, is that I like to look at the world from the perspective there's a God who runs the world, and everything, even the things that seem bad, are always on some level good, and there's always a huge opportunity for growth and for learning. There's no question the world has gone through an incredible, as we say, tumult. I mean, never before in modern human history can I remember something so small having such a big impact on so much of the world. And believe it or not, and because I'm a historian, I have this perspective, as tragic as the coronavirus has been, especially to certain populations, old people, vulnerable, compared to the great influenza of 1918, and compared to the bubonic plague that hit Europe many, many hundreds of years ago, we actually got off pretty lightly, at least in terms of the health consequences. Economic, we've yet to see. But we also got a huge wake-up call. And as I said before, we shouldn't look at this as something necessarily negative. Certainly there's a lot of bad spin-off from this, the economic impact, etc., the health impact, the loss of life. But the reality is this is a huge opportunity at, relatively speaking, a small cost to learn some very big lessons that we should be learning as Jews and as human beings. There's a famous statement in the Ethics of the Fathers which says, Ezehu Ashir, who is wealthy, hasomech bechelko, one that is happy with what they have. And that's really a big problem. We have so much. We live in a world of such abundance, so much plenty. When I'm teaching history, I like to explain that even a very middle-class person in America has actually a standard of living and a quality of life exceeding the vast majority of people who've lived in human history. Trust me, the typical not amazing American house has far more creature comforts than the greatest palace in Europe 1,000 years ago. Running water, electricity, food, as much as we can want and eat, and maybe eating even too much, we just don't appreciate it. How much more so living today in a world of plenty do we have the average American lives far better than literally billions of people on the planet Earth. So this has been a really huge wake-up call of a recognition of how much we take for granted and how much we don't pay attention to it. When we pray in the morning as a Jew, we start off with this list of blessings, thanking God for all these little things, to be able to stand up straight, to have clothes, that He gives us our needs. But many of us, myself included, we just kind of mouth these words and we don't take it for granted. I think the COVID-19 crisis, we're going to start talking about the world, BC, which is going to be before Corona and after, has been a huge wake-up call for us as human beings and as Jews to learn to appreciate little things constantly. Just the ability, I remember not being able to go around, walk outside. In Israel, they had a lockdown. It was unbelievable with police everywhere, and you couldn't travel, and the buses were closed. There was no flights. Stores were closed. We take for granted our health, my ability to go see my parents. Am I going to endanger their lives? My economic well-being. All these things which kind of flow naturally in our day-to-day life, we just weren't taking stock of them and appreciating them. There's an expression floating around now in the world, you hear it everywhere, the new normal. And they're talking about walking around with masks and social distancing, but maybe this is an opportunity for us to have a new normal of appreciation, to walk around when we say those blessings in the morning, when we're walking outside, when we're interacting with our friends, with our family, when we have our health, when we have our income, to try and be a little more cognizant of how amazing it is and how lucky we are that we get so much for so little, and how comfortable our life is, and how much we take for granted. And if we're able to sort of reprogram our brains and stay just a little more focused on that, then we'll get a lot closer to what the rabbis were saying in the Ethics of the Fathers, that who is one who is happy? One who is happy with what he has. And we should merit to have lots of health and lots of happiness for not just the Jewish people, but for the whole world. Thank you, and shalom from Jerusalem.